This episode of Retiring Today is all about the caregiver, whether you're taking care of your parents or a loved one.
And things to consider from an emotional as well as a financial standpoint and how they fit within your retirement plan.
Plus, we'll talk to home care consultants about all of the options you have. Join us for Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. This episode is all about caregiving. I'm here with Merkle. He's a certified financial planner. Lauren, you sit down with people every day, you talk about their retirement vision, and one of the most common things that you hear and one of the biggest concerns people have is, I want to make sure my plan shows that my spouse is taken care of.
We put together these plans, and one of the pieces of feedback that we receive all the time is, I just want to make sure that if something happens to me, my spouse is going to be fine for the rest of their life. And so in the plan, that's what we have to account for. I mean, the retirement vision is different for everybody. You hear us talk about this all the time. So if one piece of your retirement vision, if you're married and you want to make sure that your spouse is taken care of, it needs to be integrated within that plan. There's a number of different ways that you can do that. It looks different for everybody, and we're going to cover some of those ways here on today's show.
And another thing you see as you sit down with families too, is you see that a lot of the families, individuals that you guys work with, they have become caregivers for their parents.
This is one of the facts of life that we do see. It seems like every year we have a family member who ends up being a caretaker, and it's such a generous thing because there's so much time, there's so much emotional involvement that goes into that. But what else are you going to do? One of your loved ones needs care. You're going to make sure that that care is there. So now you need to make sure that you're taken care of because there's needs for you as well. From an emotional standpoint, from a financial standpoint, there's a lot of intricacies that come with care that is very challenging as well. I mean, just trying to move somebody physically can be a challenge for a lot of people. So there's a lot of nuance that comes with caregiving from the caretaker standpoint, but also to make sure that your loved one is getting the care they need as well.
Okay, let's go back to the families that you deal with, spouses especially. So they write out a plan and they say, I want to make sure my spouse is taken care of. When you're writing these plans, do you look at health and say, okay, we're going to guess that so-and-so may outlive so-and-so and then write the plan that way? How do you even get started with the conversation?
Health is a part of the customization because there's a lot of aspects of health. I mean, one of the things that we can't predict in our workshops, I ask this question all the time, is retirement planning would be a lot simpler if we knew when your last day was going to be. If you could tell us, can you tell us when your last day is going to be? Of course, nobody can do that. So the health has a direct correlation to when your last day is going to be a lot of times. So we can look at things like family history. We can look at things like their current status. Do they have some conditions right now? So we look at all of those different things, but a lot of times they can tell us what they're concerned about. One of them usually has a plan in mind for who is going to go first and who is going to survive. So
we've had that conversation, my spouse and I. Yeah,
yes,
definitely. You think you kind of know just based on family history.
So really, when we're in the room talking with these families, it's a continuation of that conversation. And then whatever the concerns are that they have, we build that into the plan. But even if that's not specifically talked about in the room when we're building the plan of, we're going to plan for this one to go first, what we do behind the scenes is we say, what if both? Right? What if this one goes first? What if this one goes first? To make sure that everybody's taken care of, because nobody really knows at the end of the day. And these plans have to work out because we're talking about the rest of your life. We're talking about not only the rest of your life, but the rest of your surviving spouse's life. And then if you have any legacy ambitions, how does what's left over go to the kids or the charities, your loved ones in the most efficient way without getting eroded with all these unnecessary costs or taxes?
So there are 5 guiding principles that you use when you sit down with families. You call them the Merkle retirement method. You've seen that they're proven to help people get to and through retirement. This piece of caregiving kind of hits the income planning part and the healthcare and long-term care parts of that Merkle retirement method.
Yeah, it touches on a few of those, but primarily within the income realm as well as the long-term care part of the retirement plan. One of the things that people bring to us all the time is, how am I going to address this long-term care concern? The old traditional method is to buy long-term care insurance, but that's not attractive. That's not very compelling for a lot of people today because of the monthly or yearly costs that are associated with that and the unknown of, do I really need to use long-term care? I'm going to pay all of this money, thousands of dollars a year, and I may not end up even needing to use that type of policy. So there's a lot of different ways to cover it. It's the most important aspect is you cover it the way that you're most comfortable with, and however you choose to cover it, that it works within your overall retirement plan.
Well, and you specialize in dealing with pre-retirees and retirees, so typically you don't sit down with people until maybe 55 or over and talk about it. Are you talking about this at 55, or do you wait till 70, or when do these kind of plans get put in place?
When we initially build the plan, we're talking about this topic. Whether you're 50 years old and within 10 years of retiring, or you're 55 within 10 years of retiring, or you're 70 and you've been retired for 5 years. What we do find a lot of times, though, is families that come to us and they're already retired. Maybe this type of concern hasn't really been addressed within their plan, so we're picking up the pieces and we're completing this long-term care or the caregiver plan. So it really happens at all ages, at all phases of people's life, but when we start building a plan, this is an item that is specifically addressed.
And I've got to think the biggest concern is, do I have enough? You know, I think about whenever the day comes for me, you know, you want to go, if you need to go into nursing care, you know, you want to go into a nice one, one that's expensive, but it's so expensive. So do people say, hey, Lauren, do we have enough? And then you build the plan with that in mind, or how does it start?
The primary concern when it comes to retiring is, do I have enough? Nobody wants to run out of money before they run out of time, and especially considering the overwhelming cost of a long-term care type of situation, it weighs heavily on a lot of pre-retirees and retirees' minds. So we do build that into the plan, and even if it's not a specific focal point of the conversation, we're still doing it because we know at some point it is going to be a specific focal point of the conversation. So we will identify, here's how we're going to cover this risk from a caretaker standpoint, from a long-term care cost standpoint, and then when it comes time to implement it due to a need or an increased concern, then it's already in there. Now we have to make adjustments as we go, because let's say they're 55 years old, we have it baked into the plan, but there's a lot of variables that take place between 55 and let's say 75. So it has to evolve as time evolves, as lives evolve, to make sure that we're addressing whatever those concerns are as we go through the retirement process.
And I think about the price. You know, if you retire at 55, the cost for long-term care are at 55, 30 years later could cost so much more.
The average inflation has increased over the last decade by 2%. When it comes to long-term care cost, it's more in excess of 5%. So the long-term care costs increase at a faster rate than most of the other goods and services that we consume. So it has to be addressed in that manner within the overall plan as well.
And as we talk about paying for this, let's briefly touch on, how does Medicare play into this conversation?
Medicare can pay for a portion of some long-term care needs, but for most people, it's not going to pay for nearly enough to make sure that you get the care that you want to receive, that you deserve to receive, or the care that your loved one deserves to receive. So Medicare is there once you're 65. But it's not going to pay for most of the services that you're going to want. So we have to plan outside of Medicare to make sure that you get the coverage you need.
Okay, we're talking about paying for some of these caregiving services, including staying in your home, a very good option for a lot of people. So coming up next, we have the experts from Home Instead Senior Care to answer our questions.
You've worked a lifetime to prepare for retirement, but with recent market volatility, are you still set up to achieve your goals? Important decisions also need to be made about Social Security, healthcare, and retirement income. Where do you even begin? Start by attending our Journey to Retirement live online workshop. From the comfort of your own home, you'll be able to see if you're still on track to retire. Sign up online at merkleplan.com.
Has the recent market volatility put your retirement plan to the test? See if your retirement is still on track by scheduling a retirement checkup with Lauren Merkle. During this 15-minute phone call, we'll discuss if your retirement plan could be disrupted by long-term market volatility. We'll also analyze your current tax plan and provide strategies on how to take advantage of the market. Go to merkleplan.com and click Book Now to schedule your retirement checkup today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm here with Heather Barber and Casey Pearl of Home Instead Senior Care. Ladies, it's good to have you here. We want to continue the conversation about caregivers, long-term care, and healthcare as you move to and through retirement. So tell us about, Heather, the services that Home Instead Senior Care provides.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Home Instead Senior Care provides what's called supportive home care. Supportive home care is everything from companionship through medication reminders, transportation is a big one, and also helping somebody with their activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, ambulation. So there's a wide spectrum of services that are provided under supportive home care, which is different from your home health services. Home health is referring to your physician prescribed short-term, temporary, skilled nursing and therapy services. And so sometimes those phrases get frequently interchanged. It's something that we experience a lot out in the market, and it can be confusing for people, but there is a distinctive difference between those two services.
And Casey, it's right in the name, Home Instead Senior Care. A lot of people really like the idea of trying to stay in their home as long as possible. So tell us more about the services that are provided that help people do that.
Right. Well, Home Instead Senior Care has really evolved to be a true alternative to assisted living and long-term care. So with that, our services have evolved. And what we do, we assess every one of our clients based on these 8 care needs that we've identified as major contributors to someone staying in their own home. So that ranges from cognition, social interactions, to medical conditions and mobility, and really identify the areas in which there might be some gaps. They might need some support, and implement a service plan around those gaps.
In our conversations with our families, there is a strong desire for most of our families to stay in their home as long as they can, as opposed to going to a facility outside of their home. I'm thinking that there could be some benefits to engaging in your services on a proactive basis rather than a reactive basis. Is that what you see? And talk to us a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there or thoughts about the end of life or towards the end of life, and that people need to automatically go into a nursing home when they reach a certain age. However, you referenced the proactive piece of things. When people are willing to look down the road towards the future and know that, yes, we are all aging, it's inevitable, and the likelihood of us probably needing some support is going to be there, whether it's needing assistance maybe when you're taking a shower so that you don't fall and potentially harm yourself so badly that then you are forced and relegated to that nursing home level of care. And so by acting proactively and engaging supportive home care as you're aging, you're more likely to take out those risk areas, those times where you might, again, the fall in the bathroom, or if somebody is not remembering to take their medications, having somebody come in to give that medication reminder so that that body is as healthy as it can possibly be. But like you said earlier, Casey, supportive home care truly is an option as you look to age, and it's an option to be able to stay in your home forever and not have to reach that nursing home level of care. So
who is typically calling you when somebody reaches out to you to discuss what services you provide, or maybe look at incorporating them within what they feel like their care is? Who's calling? How does that conversation go? And maybe give us a little bit of an idea of what kind of questions they should be asking as they engage you as well.
Sure. Typically, it's a daughter calling for her parents. We do have spouses that call and inquire, and generally when that happens, the spouse has reached exhaustion, that they are reaching out for some level of help to supplement what they're doing. So questions we often get are often about service rates and what it costs. Do we work round the clock, which we do. We work 365, 24 hours a day, as little as 6 hours a day. So it really is built around the individual needs and where they're at in their journey, and how we can best provide that support within the context of where they're already living. So if a spouse is involved, we don't want to take away what the spouse is doing or tell the spouse how to do anything. We will just supplement so that that spouse can remain healthy while caring for their loved one.
What about the cost, Heather? You talk about that this can be a lot less expensive than some of the assisted living facilities.
Sure. Well, the average assisted living facility in the Des Moines metro is about $5,000. So when you're comparing the apples to apples with supportive home care, that would get you about 47 hours a week of supportive home care in a one-on-one environment and setting. And so we always say, we are Lauren Merkle's own personalized assisted living. What do you need? How do you want to live? And so, that $5,000 that you might have spent in an assisted living facility would actually translate into 47 hours of that one-on-one care in your home that you would probably prefer to stay in.
Do people get 47 hours of care a week? Is that it? Can the needs be that high?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but generally, on average, our clients get between 20 and 30 hours of supportive home care a week. So we do have 24-hour clients, and we are able to do that, but that is not what we're dealing with regularly.
And that's not our norm, right? We typically do a lot of 24/7 work once somebody's maybe towards end of life or recovering from a skilled nursing stay or something such as that. So,
but much like the retirement plans are accustomed to what it is they're trying to accomplish, their retirement vision, the services that you guys provide are very customized as well. It sounds like maybe a minimum of 6 hours a day.
6 hours a week.
6 hours a week,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So 6 hours a week could be, maybe they just come over to give the caretaking spouse, a break.
Exactly.
Right? So they can go to the gym again, kind of resume some of the normal activities for their lives. And what a benefit for that caretaker, whoever it is, whether it's a child or a spouse.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to have some time away and
That's a great point, because 2/3 of our nation's caregivers are actually family caregivers. Were it not for our family caregivers, we would be in big trouble actually as a nation because of the number of aging persons that are happening right now. And so, but like you said, that family caregiver absolutely needs to be taking care of themselves, or they could potentially end up in an even worse situation than the spouse that they're already caring for.
How are most people paying for these costs? Most long-term care policies are probably going to cover the service, assuming that they lost 2 of the 6 ADLs. Does Medicare kick in to temporarily pay for some of the services, or is it mostly out of pocket if the long-term care policy is not present? Or can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so much like long-term care or assisted living, Medicare does not cover our services. So majority is out of pocket unless there's a long-term care policy involved, in which we're happy to review and work through with our clients.
There's a real vulnerability in allowing someone into your home to take care of you when when you're not, at your best as you age. If you're watching right now and you're someone whose parents are there, what are the things that you should be asking of the person or the company that you're considering allowing to come into your home? Your parents' home, that is.
Yeah, this is important in our industry because our industry, supportive home care, is not regulated in the state of Iowa. And so what Home Instead has done corporately is we have done a lot of self-regulation, if you will, and so we are doing things like local and national background checks on the child and adult abuse registry. We're doing drug screening. We are making sure that our caregivers have training and ongoing monthly training. And so, again, just to ask those questions, are you doing the background checks? Are you doing drug screening? What sort of training do they get? Those are definitely questions you want to ask because, again, with not being regulated, some agencies don't maybe do that. So.
Yeah, what a tremendous service that you guys offer. Conversations we have with so many families is they just want to stay in their home as long as they possibly can. And especially by being proactive, this enables them to take out some of the riskier activities, which can allow them to stay in their home for a much longer period of time. So you guys are doing tremendous work, and we appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so very much.
Heather and Casey of Home Instead Senior Care, so good to have you. Thank you so much. Their information is up on the screen if you want to give them a call, ask questions, or check out more about this type of in-home care. We'll wrap up Retiring Today in just a moment.
You've worked a lifetime to prepare for retirement, but with recent market volatility, are you still set up to achieve your goals? Important decisions also need to be made about Social Security, healthcare, and retirement income. Where do you even begin? Start by attending our Journey to Retirement live online workshop. From the comfort of your own home, you'll be able to see if you're still on track to retire. Sign up online at merkleplan.com.
This year, the Dow experienced its biggest one-day point drop ever. On Monday, March 16th, the S&P 500 benchmark dropped 12%, making it the benchmark's worst trading day since 1987. Through this increased market volatility, is your retirement portfolio still set up to accomplish your goals? Tune in to the Merkle Retirement Planning page on Facebook every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for Lauren's live Merkle Market Update. Receive real-time updates on how the market is impacting retirees. Like our Facebook page today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. It's time for us to answer and ask the advisor question. Here it is. We've got Al and Adele. Al wants to know, can an HSA be used for long-term care related expenses? I'm here with Lauren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner. Lauren, what would you tell Al?
Al, I'm so happy you asked this question because you can use the HSA for some of these types of expenses. And the HSA is one of the most powerful tax investment vehicles you can use because you get the pre-tax deduction, and then when you use it for qualified expenses, it comes out tax-free. So one of the strategies, Al, that you can incorporate right now is if you're contributing to an HSA and you're working, maybe don't use your HSA for your current medical expenses because there will be a time, most likely, in your retirement that you will want to use that HSA. So allow it to continue to compound tax-free until you retire, and then when the working wages go away, you will have the HSA to use as a supplement to the other investment resources that you have. So take advantage of the tax-free compounding.
And the conversation that we're having today has been about caregivers, has been about looking into options as you age and want to stay in your home. And Lauren, something that you wanted to make sure that the viewers were having conversations about was power of attorney as we kind of look at, what happens as we age.
Molly, you might be surprised about how many initial conversations that we have with people where they still have a will that's 2 decades old that addresses what happens with their kids as minor kids. Which tells me right away that the power of attorney, the healthcare directives, the financial power of attorney, those documents haven't been updated either, because most of the time those documents are updated when you update your will. So make sure that you update your power of attorneys. If for some reason you become incapacitated where you can't make that decision, you want a trusted person to act on your behalf to make sure from a healthcare standpoint, from a financial standpoint, that you're taken care of in the way that you want to be taken care of.
And we're talking about, so we've been talking a lot about the caregiver, whether you're a spouse, caring for your spouse, or you're the children caring for your parents. As someone who's helping them look at the overall retirement picture, when do you bring those two together? So the pre-retirees, the retirees, and maybe their aging parents, do you meet all together sometimes?
Usually it should be sooner than later, but oftentimes it's not until after there's a recognized need. But yes, we do meet with our families, and we meet with our families and their kids when they feel comfortable to do so. I mean, some people feel uncomfortable disclosing their financials, the specifics. But what I would tell you is that even when we have these conversations where you don't necessarily want your kids to know the detail of you have this much money in the Roth, you have this much money in the 401k plan, we can still talk about it on a high level and just say, you have this type of an account. Here's some of the things to consider in the event you become incapacitated. Here's some of the things to consider in the event that you would pass away. Because oftentimes when parents pass, we see a lot of mistakes take place with the beneficiaries, with the kids, as they try to take receipt of these monies. So just having that relationship prior to something like that taking place is really important from a transitional standpoint, but also if you're still alive and you just have your son or your daughter or your trusted loved one helping you take care of yourself as well. So having that relationship prior to an event is always a positive thing.
Okay, so we're talking about just one piece of the retirement puzzle. Really, this is kind of covering the health care and long-term care piece, but you found some other really important pieces all come together to make a comprehensive plan, and we've kind of called it the Merkle retirement method. What else should people be talking about?
Yeah, and the long-term care and the health care piece of it, it's all integrated with everything else, because if you have a long-term care need where you need an extra $5,000, $10,000 a month, that will directly impact your income plan, where you're taking the money from to pay for that need. It's also going to impact your tax plan, because if you need that excess money coming in and it's coming from a taxable source, which in a lot of cases that's the case, it's going to impact the level of tax that you pay. It's also going to affect your legacy plan. What happens to what's left over when you are no longer with us? It needs to transfer in the most efficient way possible to make sure that your wishes are fulfilled as well. All of this will impact your investment plan, especially in times where the market is as volatile as what it is now. You can see, Molly, that each one of these are integrated. What you do over here is going to impact what you do over here. That's why we have developed the Merkle retirement method, to make sure they all work together on your behalf to accomplish your retirement wishes.
And there's a lot to talk about with each of these 5 guiding components, and you cover many of them in the workshops. Tell people a little bit about the workshops.
These workshops that we do, we have a couple different workshops. The first workshop is the Journey to Retirement. The Journey to Retirement workshop is designed for those in the pre-retirement phase. You're 5 years out from retiring, you're 2 years out from retiring, and you start thinking about the decisions you're going to have to make once you retire. Where's the income going to come from? How much money can you receive at point of income and down the line? Make sure you don't run out of money. And how do you mitigate the impact of taxes as you go as well? One of my favorite workshops is called the Boost class, and this is intended for those who are already retired. One of the primary concerns of individuals who are already retired is the health care component. So it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about here on today's show. So we talk about how to account for the increasing health care costs as we go through retirement. We talk specifically about long-term care needs and how to cover those costs, the increasing changing of the tax legislation. There's a lot of things that retirees have to face. The planning doesn't stop at retirement, so we have to make sure the plan stays up with their lives as we go through retirement as well.
Yeah, so there's Journey to Retirement and there's Boost Your Retirement. Also, there's classes for women in retirement. So a lot of great resources to learn more. We've also got a YouTube channel. So we just talked about today in-home health care. We did another episode that talked about the difference between active aging communities and assisted living memory care units. So that's on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out. And one last thing we've got is the podcast. Tell people about that.
The podcast is an extension of what we're doing here on the show. We talk about the Merkle retirement method, all the planning components that go into it, the concerns of pre-retirees, retirees, and how you can make the most out of the resources that you've saved for your retirement to make sure that you can live your best retirement vision.
Okay, lots of great ways to learn about planning your retirement. And one of them, of course, is this show. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
You've worked a lifetime to prepare for retirement, but with recent market volatility, are you still set up to achieve your goals? Start by attending our Journey to Retirement live online workshop. From the comfort of your own home, you'll be able to see if you're still on track to retire. Sign up online at merkleplan.com.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week.